is Hawaii News Now.
Happening right now, live pictures from the state capitol highlighting a clash of ideals. People for and against same-sex marriage are sign waving along Baratania Street.
While the testimony inside continues, the public hearing on the Marriage Equality Act of 2013 has now been going on for 7.5 hours. 1,800 people signed up to speak. Only about 300 have had their turn. And it appears the hearing will go all night. We have a live update in just moments.
First, the action outside the State House. We start our team coverage with Lynn Kawano live at a big rally underway. Lynn.
The crowd continues to grow out here. This was supposed to be over at 6 o'clock, but as you can see, it is still going strong. In fact, more people are coming out here this afternoon and evening. Opponents of the same-sex marriage bill got a permit for 10,000 people. We don't have a final count, but there are easily in the thousands out here. This rally started at 4 o'clock. A lot of groups organized buses to bring people to the rally. Supporters of the same-sex marriage bill held a rally of their own this morning. They also lined South Baratania and filled the rotunda. So many people here for both sides. The first day of the first public hearing, everyone was excited about the turnout.
Coming to see people to really express aloha. I like cry now because this is unity. I'm amazed because they're coming from every part of the island. They're coming from Molokai, they're coming from Big Island.
I think people are really excited to see this process starting. We know that there's going to be a very thorough and robust debate this week, but people have been anticipating this moment for a very long time.
Is that like a group of students out here from Christian Academy in Moanalua? They are collecting signatures for a petition opposing the same-sex marriage bill. Again, they're from Christian Academy in Moanalua. So far, they got about 1,000 signatures, and they are hoping to get other schools involved as well. Most of the signatures they got from right here at the rally. No other rallies scheduled for this week, but we're told that organizers could change that depending on how the public hearing goes. Reporting live, I'm in Kawano, Hawaii News Now.
We're worried about the scraps that fall from the majority leader's table instead of our constituents and the public at large. And that's not what I want to be part of. I want no ownership of this special session.
It's heated language and political sparring at the Capitol today.
Amid all the drama over the marriage debate, Republicans make a power play to remove one of their own members from a key committee. That member, you're seeing her right there, Cynthia Thielen, the only House Republican planning to vote yes to the Marriage Equality Act.
But Thielen fended off that power play, and tonight the bill is advancing the full Senate. Mila Lincoln is live at the Capitol for us. Mila.
Keahi, Tanya, explosive accusations here at the Capitol earlier this morning after Representative Bob McDermott introduced that resolution. Now, both he and Thielen currently serve on the House Judiciary Committee, which is scheduled to hear Senate Bill 1, the Hawaii Marriage Equality Act of 2013, this Thursday. Now, in order for the bill to survive this special session, it has to be approved or advanced through that committee.
This whole arrangement has destroyed the minority caucus. Of course, right now, I'm the most hated man in there. Fine, I can live with that.
Representative Bob McDermott says his resolution was a reaction to the Democratic caucus, who he says replaced a Judiciary Committee member with a representative who once indicated she would vote no to same-sex marriage with another lawmaker who plans to vote yes.
There's too much backroom slithering behind all the stuff people hate about politics, that's what this is.
Representative Cynthia Thielen described McDermott's proposal as a failed attempt to block democracy.
I'm not going to be muzzled. I'm going to keep speaking out. And I am a mainstream Republican. I'm proud of it. And I do support marriage equality.
The exchange between lawmakers on the floor was fiery.
I may be the sole Republican in our minority caucus that does, but I can guarantee you I'm not the sole Republican in our community that supports marriage equality.
At one point, Representative Gene Ward was called out of order by Speaker Joe Suki, and he challenged back.
Again, I'm going to call you out of order.
Well, you may do so, sir.
You're out of order.
Thank you very much. Do you want me to walk off? You want the Sergeant of Arms to come and take me off?
Yes.
I want to say my piece.
Lawmakers called the division in the House, specifically between members of the minority Republican caucus, indicative of the polarizing nature of the same-sex marriage debate.
We agree to disagree with not just with the Republicans, but also with Democrats within our caucus. And, it's to be expected on an issue like this that you will have some fundamental differences of opinion.
McDermott also called for the removal of current minority leader Aaron Johansen. The motions failed. Now, House Majority leadership says even with the very heated exchange on the House floor this morning, they still strongly suspect they have the votes they need to pass the same-sex marriage bill when that time comes. In the meantime, both parties are saying it's time to unite and move forward. Of course, we'll be waiting and watching to see if that's what happens. Reporting live from the Capitol, Mileka Lincoln, Hawaii News Now.
Same-sex marriage one step closer to becoming reality in Hawaii, but not without a fight. Good evening, I'm Tanya Joaquin.
And I'm Chris Tanaka. There is a new attempt to stop the controversial bill. We have team coverage of day 3 of this special session. Ben Gutierrez has details on a new legal battle.
But first, we start with Mileka Lincoln and the Senate's approval of the measure. Mileka.
Tanya, Chris, SB 1, the Hawaii Marriage Equality Act of 2013, passed its third reading in the Senate today. And this came after passionate and oftentimes very personal testimony from senators as they addressed their fellow lawmakers. Senator Jill Tokuda stood in support of SB 1 and had other lawmakers in tears as she described her dream to dance at her son's wedding someday.
But it got me thinking about all of the other mothers and fathers out there who just want that moment with their child and who've suffered alongside them with their rights denied. Pope Francis said, "Who am I to judge? I ask, who am I to deny?"
Senator Mike Gabbard explained how he's been called a hater, homophobe, even a Nazi for opposing SB 1.
But the real issue here is, have we really done all that we can to give the opportunity for people's voices to be heard? After all, isn't that what the democratic process is all about? This is even more reason that we should heed the advice of the people who are urging us to let the people decide by putting this back on the ballot in 2014 as a constitutional amendment.
The same-sex marriage bill passed the Senate 20-4.
Senator English?
Aye.
Senator Espero?
Yes for love and equality.
SB 1 will now need to make its way through the House. Leadership there has indicated they plan to amend the religious exemptions. If they do, the Senate will need to approve that version.
The Senate cares very deeply about the constitutional protections, which includes sexual orientation. So if the House is entertaining an idea that would open that up to the detriment of that protected class, the Senate may have to reconsider how it takes up that issue.
Now, we asked Senate officials to provide us with a breakdown of the Judiciary Committee testimony. They say 60% opposed, while 40% supported same-sex marriage. So I asked Senator Clayton He, who chairs that committee, why then did it advance out of committee and even make its way to the Senate for a vote on the floor today? He says that if you allow civil rights to go up to a majority vote on minority issues, then there's no way that things like desegregation in schools or the women's right to vote would have ever come to pass. Continuing our team coverage from here at the Capitol is Ben Gutierrez with more on a legal challenge by a House representative. Ben?
Yeah, Melika, one of the high-profile opponents of same-sex marriage in the state legislature is trying to head to court to try to keep the legislature from even acting on a same-sex marriage bill. Now, State Representative Bob McDermott, who is a Republican, has filed a lawsuit. He says the governor and many lawmakers say the issue on the ballot back in 1998 gave the legislature the power to make all future decisions on same-sex marriage. This was in a constitutional amendment. But McDermott says the wording of the voting instructions set limits on the legislature's authority.
The people already did vote. They voted in 1998 to give the power to the legislators, to their elected representatives to make these decisions.
They were told it's between a man and a woman only. That's what the state put out. So the state has a responsibility on what the information they provide to the voter. And so the case is, what did the people understand they were voting on?
Now, McDermott again says that his case really hinges on what people thought they were voting on. In other words, the instructions that were on the vote for the ballot, saying again that it was to define marriage as between a man and a woman only, even though the word only does not appear in the constitutional amendment itself. Now, McDermott's lawsuit is asking the court to stop any legislative action on any type of marriage until the definition of the constitutional amendment can actually be parsed out. And of course, we'll have more on this issue as to whether he has any legal standing tonight on Hawaii News Now at 10. Reporting live from the state capitol, Ben Gutierrez, Hawaii News Now.
And joining me now to continue our team coverage, Lynn Kawano, with more on how much those 2 minutes mean.
Yeah, one couple flew in from Hilo, Meleka. They packed up their toddler, then came down here to the Capitol and waited for several hours just for those 2 minutes. But they say it was all worth it.
Like most one-year-olds, Elsa Marie is the pride and joy of her parents. In this case, her parents are two moms, Elena Kabatu, who gave birth to her, and Elena's partner of 10 years, Teresa Jeanette, who had to go through the adoption process, costing thousands. The three live in Hilo, but flew to Oahu early Thursday morning to testify before House representatives on the same-sex marriage bill. They were number 7 in the list of 4,000, but still waited for hours for Elena's turn.
Good afternoon. My name is Elena Kabatu.
She had just 2 minutes, so she spoke quickly and to the point before the alarm went off.
You will determine equal rights for my family. You will determine if our future second child will be born in a new era of civil rights. You will determine if Teresa and I will be able to be legally married next summer. Thank you.
Another mom, Valerie Okimoto, was watching the public hearing from the rotunda. She is against the same-sex marriage bill.
Not disrespecting anybody else, but the way that this bill is written is not conducive to the values and morals that I hold to be true, where we have children who need to be raised in a healthy environment with a mom and a dad.
Elena Kabatu knows she probably didn't change any minds in the 2 minutes, but is still glad they made the trip.
We both took the day off, in fact, and we made this a family occasion. Definitely worth it.
A lot of people did have to be cut off because they went over their time, but most said they were just happy to get their 2 cents in, even if it was just for 2 minutes. At the Capitol, I'm Lynn Kawano, Hawaii News Now.
Lawmakers now entering their 52nd hour of testimony on a controversial same-sex marriage bill, but a new policy is in place helping speed things up after lawmakers put a stop to name and number swapping that we uncovered this weekend. Mileka Link is live at the state capitol with the latest details. Mileka.
Tanya, House officials confirmed they noticed inconsistencies, is what they're describing it as, with the registration numbers people were providing and the names that they were using from day one, but says it was happening so often they assumed it was a glitch in the system. Now they're asking for ID both when people initially check in and also right before they step up to the podium. And since that new procedure has been in place, they say that there have been no incidents, and you can also tell that testimony has noticeably sped up. That said, many are here at the Capitol for the 4th day. Testifiers we spoke to say the process has been much longer than they ever anticipated. One believes lawmakers should have been checking ID just to make sure people from outside of Hawaii haven't been testifying, while another says they would happily wait again for a chance to stand up for what they believe in.
People with little children have been down here for 6 days waiting to give their testimony because there have been so many people from the mainland.
I've wait another 2 or 3 days. I would come and bring my stuff every day after work and wait till I could say my 2 minutes, because that's important.
Now, we did clarify with lawmakers it doesn't matter where you're from, you are able to testify here, although some people are saying that they should only be taking into consideration the local residents' views. Lawmakers have heard from all 5,184 people who signed up, but they're now allowing anyone who may have missed their number the first time it was called to testify. They're currently in the 3,000 group. I'm told that there is the possibility that the public testimony will conclude tonight. It does not sound like, though, the committee will actually vote on whether or not to advance this bill to the House floor. Decision making will likely not happen until tomorrow, and that again is even if public testimony concludes tonight. We're very closely watching and waiting. We're standing by. I'll be live tweeting all of the updates from the auditorium when I return back in there. Reporting live from the Capitol, Mileka Lincoln, Hawaii News Now.
Clash at the Capitol. Good evening. I'm Chris Tanaka.
And I'm Tanya Joaquin. Tensions escalate and tempers flare in a showdown over same-sex marriage. Our Mileka Lincoln joins us now live with more. Mileka.
Tanya, Chris, hundreds of people arrived here at the Capitol this morning in hopes that they'd get a chance to see House representatives as they take up the second reading and vote on an amended version of SB 1, the Hawaii Marriage Equality Act of 2013, which just passed out of committees last night. But things quickly got heated.
Let the people vote! Let the people vote! Let the people vote!
Emotions quickly escalated as dozens chanting "Let the people vote" moved their protest from just outside the House chamber to the Capitol steps, where a previously scheduled press conference for local faith leaders who stand in support of same-sex marriage was being held. Public safety officers quickly stepped in to monitor the situation, but didn't take any action. This was as hundreds of others were here waiting for their chance to get inside to view this historic day.
The word marriage was prior to any government, by the way. It does belong to the religious community. And so they have their civil unions. And the issues they're saying actually should be petitioned at the Congress, not at our state.
I came to the Capitol to support human rights and equal marriage rights because it's very important to me, and I think that everyone deserves love and deserves that public validation of love, and so that's why I'm here. Equality for all.
The sheer volume of the protests outside have disrupted the House proceedings, causing lawmakers to raise their voices as audience members strain to follow along with what they're saying. At this point, House representatives haven't even gotten to a reading of the amended version of SB 1, which expands religious exemptions to protect clergy or religious institutions from refusing to perform wedding ceremonies or participate in celebrations or even provide goods and services related to a wedding. Now, just moments ago on the House floor, they took a vote on a proposal that was introduced earlier by Representative Marcus Oshiro that would essentially create a new constitutional amendment to let the people vote, as we've been hearing them chant outside all day. Just now, that vote was taken on the House floor, and that amendment was turned down. Reporting live from the Capitol, Mileka Lincoln, Hawaii News Now.
Mileka, thanks. Our coverage of the same-sex marriage debate far from over. Head online to hawaiinewsnow.com or check out our Facebook page. And coming up new tonight at 6, we'll delve into all of the amendments being pushed at the Capitol.
Honolulu police have arrested a man.
Crime showers are tapering off.
Guy Hoggy's got the scoop on some weird winds that triggered today's downpours in just a bit. First, this.
Let the people vote! Let the people vote!
Loud and passionate at the state capitol, hundreds of gay marriage protesters have been chanting for hours now as lawmakers debate numerous proposals to change the bill. Happening right now, team coverage on all the day's developments.
Starting with our Mileka Lincoln live, where the protests continue at this hour. Mileka.
Tanya Keahi, the number of protesters here at the Capitol has certainly thinned out from this morning. Only a few dozen remain, some of them now holding marriage equality signs. The majority of them, though, earlier today chanting, "Let the people vote." Hundreds arrived here at the Capitol Rotunda for an opportunity to get into the House chambers to actually watch as the second reading and vote was supposed to happen on an amended version of SB 1, the Hawaii Marriage Equality Act of 2013. But things quickly got heated and out of hand.
Let the people vote! Let the people vote! Let the people vote!
Emotions quickly escalated as dozens chanting "Let the people vote" moved their protests from just outside the chamber to the Capitol steps, where a previously scheduled press conference for local faith leaders who stand in support of same-sex marriage was being held as they were singing Amazing Grace. Public safety officers quickly stepped in to monitor the situation, but did not take any action. Now, the sheer volume of the protests outside have disrupted the House proceedings, causing lawmakers to raise their voices as audience members strain to follow along with what they're saying. At this point, House representatives haven't even gotten to a reading of the amended version of SB 1. What just happened on the House floor, though, is two different proposals were introduced. Both would create a constitutional amendment to let the people vote, as you're hearing them chant now, on a future ballot. Both of those were struck down, and the vote on that 28-18 with 4 House representatives excused at the time. As I mentioned, they haven't even gotten to the second reading of SB 1, which did pass with amendments last night out of both the House Joint Committees. And at that time, they created more of an expansion on those religious exemptions. Joining us now with more information and continuing our team coverage, Tim Sakahara, with what those religious exemptions now do. Tim?
That's right, Milek. It's loud out here too as well. But you know, one of those exemptions that you're talking about now applies to the churches, and they are now exempt from the solemnization and the celebration of gay marriages. So what does that mean? Well, they don't have to provide facilities, goods, or services to both the ceremony or the reception.
While some want the people to vote, House lawmakers did already decide to add exemptions to the same-sex marriage law. First, clergy can refuse to solemnize a marriage for virtually any reason and not be punished. Churches will also be protected if they refuse to allow a couple access to their facilities or buildings for the ceremony or celebration. And churches with their own services, like musicians, photographers, or caterers, can also refuse to work at a same-sex couple's marriage.
It doesn't apply to outside vendors, individuals, private businesses, but it does apply to the church.
However, private companies and businesses separate from a church still cannot turn down a same-sex couple, even if they're members of a church and it's against their own personal belief. That was the case even before this special session.
If they offer good services, etc., to the public, then they can't discriminate.
The Hawaii Civil Rights Commission is already trying to think of all the different scenarios that could come up. However, it isn't expecting a rush on complaints if the same-sex law passes, just like there weren't any complaints filed by gay couples regarding civil unions.
I really don't anticipate a substantial large number of complaints stemming from, flowing from, resulting from the enactment of a marriage equality bill.
To signify your embrace of...
Some say same-sex marriage is not a civil rights issue, but the executive director of the Hawaii Civil Rights Commission, who hears civil rights complaints, says it is.
Both in the court's view and in the legislature's view, sexual orientation discrimination is a civil rights issue.
Now, let's say a church has a cafe and a gay couple comes in for lunch. Well, that church certainly cannot refuse to serve them. That would be a violation. The exemptions they're talking about apply only to a marriage and the marriage ceremony and celebration, not to the day-to-day business that is going on at the specific church establishment. By the way, the governor and the state attorney general did sign off and approve of the exemptions already approved on here at the state capitol. Reporting live, Tim Sakahara, Hawaii News Now.
And there you go. The third reading has passed, and the crowd is going wild outside. If we could take a look at what's happening there, Mileka Lincoln has been with them. Of course, they've been gathered there since before 10 this morning.
Let's take a moment here and just look at the crowd reacting. Of course, the people celebrating there, the supporters of this same-sex marriage bill. For them, this is the moment of victory. They know from here on out this bill is pretty smooth sailing all the way to the governor's desk, where he is expected to sign it. And if that indeed happens, marriages could start happening in the state December 2nd. Let's go to Mileka Lincoln now. She's at the scene live.
Keahi, Tanya, the mood here absolutely electric. You can hear as the crowd has just erupted in cheers, clapping. We're seeing huggings, we're seeing tears. And this is all happening as they've just learned that SB1, the Hawaii Marriage Equality Act of 2013, which will legalize same-sex marriage in our state, has just passed a third reading in the House of Representatives. Now, this is not the final vote. Because of amendments that took place to expand the religious exemptions within the bill, this bill now does have to cross back over to the Senate. But as we mentioned just moments earlier, the Senate did have very decisive support for this bill when they passed it over to the House earlier last week, which is why it is, in fact, expected to be accepted by the Senate when they get it next week, Tuesday. From there, it will have to go up to the governor. He has been a supporter of same-sex marriage here in the state, so we're certainly anticipating that he will sign that bill right away. As you mentioned, if all of that happens as scheduled, then December 2nd will be the first day that same-sex couples living here in Hawaii will have the opportunity to wed.
Imagine all the people living life and peace.
Today, now, all those who have been invisible will be visible to themselves and the whole world.
It's been a long and contentious fight, but Hawaii's Marriage Equality Act is now law.
People criticize the timing, but it is never the wrong time to do the right thing.
Governor Abercrombie describes it as part of Hawaii's legacy of aloha. Same-sex couples say it's about time.
It just feels like such a relief and such a joy, and I can't wait for the healing to begin for our entire community.
History here in Hawaii. Good evening. I'm Tanya Joaquin.
And I'm Chris Tanaka. With the stroke of a pen, Hawaii became the 15th state to legalize same-sex marriage.
The signing ceremony happened before hundreds of supporters, many who fought decades to get it passed. And we have some team coverage right now. The ceremony, Tim Sakahara is live downtown where there's a celebration happening right now.
First, though, let's go to Mileka Lincoln, who was at this morning's signing event. Mileka.
Chris, Tanya, that pen you mentioned used in today's signing will be going to retired Justice Stephen Levinson, who in 1993 wrote the landmark state Supreme Court decision that denying same-sex couples marriage licenses was discrimination. His decision essentially sparked the same-sex marriage debate that has erupted across the nation. And supporters say it's only fitting it would come full circle back to him 2 decades later.
Done.
With one word, Governor Neil Abercrombie culminated a long-fought journey for advocates of marriage equality.
They say that justice delayed is justice denied. And for almost 20 years, justice has been delayed and denied for our gay brothers and sisters who wanted to get married, but no longer.
Civil unions was a triumph, but today is actually the arrival at the destination, and I couldn't be any happier.
Today's ceremony was clearly a celebration for supporters.
You may say I'm a dreamer.
But the magnitude of the moment wasn't lost.
I could never have imagined that I would play a role in such a profound, yet in my mind, a really simple thing to do. Bring justice and equality to all of us.
And though lawmakers admit not all of Hawaii is rejoicing, they expressed hope the aloha spirit would prevail in bridging the divide between supporters and opponents.
We are one ohana, we are one family. And if we're going to overcome our greater challenges down the road, we're going to need to join hands and work together.
Governor Abercrombie says he was inspired by Queen Liliuokalani's legacy to treat one another with dignity.
If we could but see our likenesses, could we not learn to be tolerant of our differences? That's the Queen's admonition to us. I think that SB 1 satisfies the Queen's desire that we look to see our likenesses with one another and not to see our differences.
The governor says he believes the law balances civic rights with First Amendment protections, but more importantly, ends discrimination many have felt for years.
Today, now, all those who have been invisible will be visible to themselves and the whole world.
Same-sex couples will be able to legally wed for the first time on December 2nd. And today, amongst the supporters, I already heard several making plans for proposals and ceremonies in the coming weeks.
Same-sex marriages became legal here in Hawaii, with couples getting married starting just after midnight.
With more on the historic I-dos, here's Ben Gutierrez, who filed this report from Waikiki just a short time ago.
The partying continued into the early morning hours when, after the stroke of midnight, preparations were made for the first same-sex marriages to occur in Hawaii as the marriage equality law took effect. Among the couples, the first 6 were couples who already had civil unions. Some of them had been together as long as 35 years, others not quite so long as that. But for all of them, it was a very emotional moment as they marched down the aisle, and they were each allowed to exchange vows with each other with their own officiants, and finally they were pronounced spouses and legally married under the new Hawaii law.
It is amazing to finally actually have marriage equality here in the birthplace of marriage equality. It brings it all home to us. 23-year struggle, we are complete.
Finally here, and we're elated, very excited and a little bit nervous.
It was contentious during the hearings, and yeah, we need to get together more and
start to heal.
Yeah.
There actually was a little bit of a technical glitch. The weddings were delayed by about 25 minutes, which is the same thing that happened 2 years ago when civil unions went into effect. and some of the computers were not able to handle the volume and number of marriage license applications that were coming in just after the midnight deadline. In all, a total of 37 couples were legally married on this first day of Hawaii's new marriage equality law. Reporting from Waikiki, Ben Gutierrez, Hawaii News Now.